Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Today we're looking at the Patek Philippe Grande Ellipse reference 3634, 18-karat yellow gold. You can see this vintage Patek Philippe 3634, and you can take it home on our website, watchyouwant.com. And if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Watch You Want Inc. Now, the Grande Ellipse was the automatic successor to the original 1968 Patek Philippe Golden Ellipse. The Grande is bigger, it has more presence, automatic winding, and of course this variant with black onyx dial and matching black onyx cabochon has immense visual presence. On my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference, this watch wears with modern stance. Now 38 millimeters lug to lug and 33 millimeters across. It wears larger because visually the watch has the character and the muscle of that triple step to its bezel. It makes it read a lot larger. Very comfortable on the wrist though. At only 6.5 millimeters thick, that triple stepped bezel becomes a ramp over which even the tightest dress cuff will easily flow. So this is the quintessential dress watch if you want something that's unimpeachably fine, but maybe a little bit avant-garde, even by the standards of the 1960s and 70s. Now, the 3634 was a short-lived reference, being built between approximately 1975 and about 1979. Very, very few of these were made, both because the movement production based on the JLC 920 Bausch was constrained in that respect, and because it was, even then, a connoisseur's watch. In my opinion, the 3634 represents one of the great bargains in vintage Patek Philippe precisely because there are more hyped models, more expensive models, and more complicated models, but in terms of a memorable, timeless shape, in terms of beautiful, rich materials, and seriously hardcore watchmaking inside, it's going to be hard to beat this. Not for the money. Nothing even comes close. Now remember that this watch is a contemporary of the first generation Patek Philippe Jumbo Nautilus, and in common with the caliber 3700, this one features the Patek Philippe adaptation of the JLC caliber 920, developed in the late 60s for Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe, and Vacheron Constantin. The movement was only ever used by the Holy Trinity, never used by any other houses, and never used by JLC itself. An incredibly fine movement. It is a Geneva seal caliber that's only 2.45 millimeters thick when made in this simple variant without a seconds hand or a date, 2.45 millimeters thick with 36 jewels, and 4 of them are actually circumferential, and they support the annular winding mass. It actually rolls on 4 roller-bearing rubies that allows it to be built into the same plane as the winding rotor mechanism bridge, which is to say that it's effectively as thin as if it had no rotor. That's the best way to describe it. It sort of cantilevers out and over the movement on the flanks rather than riding up and over its center like a conventional winding rotor. Now, 36 joules is only the beginning of the equation because this is a Geneva seal movement. Yes, the movement of the $20 screws. Everything, including that which you cannot see, which is screwed into the movement, buried by layers of metal, is finished to an exquisite standard. We're talking screw pilots, essentially the portion below the threaded stalk, that are polished to a mirror shine. We're talking blinding Côte de Genève with exquisite texture, brilliant rhodium. We're talking tight and even perlage about the base plate. This is traditional watchmaking at its best, and again, ultra thin. It features an unconventional 19,800 vibration or 2.75 hertz beat rate. Very unique. This is the movement that you see in the first generation Nautilus, in the first generation Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, in the Vacheron 222. It's one of the great ultra-thin movements of all time, and that's why I say for serious watchmaking, for that Patek Philippe Gyromax free-sprung balance, the JLC circumferential winding mass, for that standard of finish inherent in the Geneva seal, it's hard to beat what's inside this deceptively simple watch. Now, the dial is a memorable one in its own right. There were a few variants of the 3646. What sets this one apart is that it features the completely unadorned Patek signed black onyx dial. So this mineral has the depth and the luster as well as the longevity of something like a fired enamel dial. But whereas black enamel is almost unheard of, black onyx is even less common. It's one of the least common variants of onyx, and while it's often chemically faked, Patek Philippe used the real thing for this dial, as well as the onyx cabochon inset on top of the crown. Now the Onyx has a luster and a depth that makes it look almost as though it's wet paint, like you could stick your hand 3 feet into it. It's exquisite, and this dial is in exceptional condition. It's also matched with the Dauphine hands that were characteristic of the best variants of this dial. There was also a blue variant with applied Roman numerals and baton hands. It doesn't have nearly the charisma of the Onyx, and it's not nearly as, in my opinion, powerful. This is a watch that has power, charisma, impact. The combination of a light yellow gold with the black tone of the dial and the total absence of any kind of fuss, busyness, or distracting details makes this pretty close to the perfect dress watch. Now the steps of the bezel are echoed in the steps of the crown, which features this inset and beautifully carved onyx piece. This watch is essentially a survivor. It's the kind of watch you would find that had been stashed away in a collector's safe for years. It's something that's unrestored, unpolished, completely unsullied, either by the ravages of time or ham-fisted restoration attempts. It even features the original Patek Philippe period 18-karat yellow gold company-branded pin buckle, a beautiful survivor in every respect. This is a rare case of a vintage watch that features its original pin buckle from the manufacturer, so signed on the movement, signed inside the case, signed on the dial, and yes, even signed on the pin buckle. This watch has just enough precious metal heft to remind you that you're wearing something special, but it is so exquisitely thin that it almost feels like the swatch skin died and came back as royalty in a second life via reincarnation. This is a special watch with a personality and an aura all its own. Believe me, I love the Nautilus, I love the perpetual calendar chronographs. They're great, each one a great chapter in Patek Philippe history, but this little-known star from the mid to late 70s not only deserves your respect, it deserves love. This is a classic that has yet to be discovered. Be the pioneer, find it first, and take it home on watchyouwant.com.